From Pocketnow.com, this is Pocketnow Weekly.
Hello, and welcome to the pilot episode of Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast from Pocketnow.com where we discuss news and opinion from the world of mobile technology. That's smartphones, tablets, phablets, and everything in between. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, contributing editor at Pocketnow, and I'm joined by our managing editor, whose name I still butcher even after months and months, Anton de Nodje.
It's Nudge.
Nudge.
Hey, Michael. Hey, everybody.
And our editor-in-chief, Brandon Meneman.
Good day. Good day.
Good day, gentlemen. This is very, very exciting. How are you both today?
Excelente.
I'd be better if I didn't miss the new episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians last night.
I feel for you, man. That sucks.
I just wanted to know what happened with Courtney. You know, she's pregnant and she's a little bit on edge. And, you know, Scott's opening his restaurant. You know, it's just so fun to see all of it come together. But I guess I'll have to catch it on DVR or something.
Or I think we should give out your personal email address, and people should just start sending you email of what happened.
Start sending you spoilers about the next episode of the Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Yeah, I think that's a good recurring idea.
Fine, I just won't open them then.
This is an entirely new endeavor for us at Pocketnow. Not for you guys so much. You guys were on the last iteration of the Pocketnow podcast. But this is something entirely new. This is in keeping with our new format, with what we're calling Pocketnow 5.0. And before we get started, before I kind of talk about how we're going to do this going forward, I would like to hear from Brandon about how this fits in with the new Pocketnow. So, Brandon, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So about a year ago in August, we decided to press reboot on a lot of things. I think like a lot of businesses out there, we had to sort of reinvent ourselves to stay competitive and most importantly, to evolve and to change and to do better, really. So we wanted to change and we wanted to evolve. And so we had this idea that we were going to relaunch Pocketnow in a big way. Pocketnow's been around for about 12 years, and it just so happens that if we were to redesign the site, and this is last year, it would be the 5th iteration of the site. So we decided to give it kind of a cute name, Pocketnow 5. 5's a nice round number. And we wanted to focus on a lot of different areas. We wanted to focus on quality of presentation of content because the blog model is nice. That is, when you go to a website and there's a huge listing of content and you kind of read it like a personal blog that's evolved into something more professional. That's okay, but there's something to be said for big, beautiful images, magazine-like features, and even custom typography. So we wanted to do that. We wanted to focus our content more so on in-depth editorial rather than just news. And finally, we wanted to really evolve our video offering with a far higher production quality, more sort of TV show style videos rather than, you know, let's fire up the camera, I'm going to show you the device, which is good too. Those quick and dirty videos are good, but we wanted to really up the quality. So we kind of pressed reboot, and with that, last year we put off the podcast until things kind of settled down after we sort of fit into this new Pocketnow 5 system. And so here we are with the new show, which is called Pocketnow Weekly. And we've got a lot of cool things coming up. We've got some special guests planned for the future. We're going to be having different Pocketnow editors come on here on a sort of rotational basis. So you get to hear from different people since we all have unique perspectives. And yeah, so we're excited for the reboot.
Very much so. Yeah, thank you. And this is, it's very exciting because just on a personal note, you know, I came into kind of the tech field and I started following phones and mobile technology based on a lot of the podcasts that I used to listen to, you know, and this is one of the things that I really wanted to do when I came on board the Pocketnow team a couple months ago, and I'm really glad we're finally getting it sort of restarted here. So this is an exciting day.
I get to use my my big blue microphone thing, you know, the snowball.
Yeah, Tony was telling me. You guys are working with the same microphone, right, Tony?
Almost. I'm using the Yeti because here in Romania, Yeti means a person, describes a person who lives in the forest and is pretty ugly. That's why I chosen this microphone. Well, no, actually, because it's a top of the line, state of the art microphone. But yeah, I don't want to make any commercials or ads, but these types of microphones are perfect.
That is awesome. I'm using, for the record, I'm using a Sennheiser interview mic in a padded 4x6 room that will be familiar to the viewers of some of my reviews because it's just gray egg crates all over the walls.
So if you go insane in that room, Michael, you're covered because if you smash your head into the wall,
you're safe.
Oh, yeah, I'm completely safe from myself, and others are safe from me. It's great.
And you cannot smash a phone.
Right, that's true. Unless I throw it at the iMac in front of me, which would probably do the iMac a favor, put it out of its misery. At any rate, the part of the new format, part of the new kind of podcast formula is that we're going to be doing a weekly show with 4 segments. We cover basically 3 major platforms at Pocketnow. We cover Windows Phone, iOS, and Android. We also have a miscellaneous section for stuff that pops up. Occasionally BlackBerry will still make news, and Symbian and Amigo's in the news recently, actually. But that we put the MISC section toward the end. And toward the end of the hour, we have a debate topic. We're going to try this out and see what we can do with that. We just have kind of a 2-minute session where one of us puts out an idea that may be stupid.
Oh, it's going to be longer.
Yeah,
it's going to be longer.
Maybe a 25-minute segment. No, but ideally we try to keep the shows under an hour. We're going to solicit some feedback from you listeners and stuff like that. We'll talk more about that at the end here. But for now, gentlemen, why don't we get started? Why don't we talk about the news of the week here?
Well, first, actually.
Oh, please.
I wasn't reading. I was listening to the last, when it was called the Pocket Cast, the last episode, and it was 13 months ago in August. And it's amazing how so much has changed, and yet so much has not changed. Some of the headlines then were that everyone is suing everyone. That is still the case. That Google was buying Motorola, and that went through successfully, but nothing really has happened. I'm sure it's going to take years for us to see anything come out of that. Sadly, around that time, Steve Jobs had stepped down as CEO, and we all, were hypothesizing why that might be. So it's amazing. 13 months is a long time, but not that much has changed. The screen sizes on phones are far bigger now. Jeez. Definitely.
Yeah, I just mentioned that. I just finished up putting together a review, which should be out by the time this episode goes live. The Huawei Ascend P1, and I mentioned that it's got a 4.3-inch display, but it feels like it's 3.5 inches because it's just all the screen size. We're in this age of jumbo phones, which is just ridiculous. But I've been spoiled along with everybody else, and I know you guys have too. I don't think you guys have any blushes about that, though. You like your big phones.
Well, it depends. It depends from a person to a person. For me, the most important thing is one-handed usability. And while I can tell you that the Samsung Galaxy S3, which I'm using at the moment, offers me a certain amount of one-handed usability, I totally managed to kill that by installing the flip cover, the smart cover, or how they call it, the one which is similar to the Galaxy Note. When I have some bags or something else in my hand and I want to take out my phone from my pocket or from my man purse, I just cannot use it with one hand.
You're talking about the flip cover that opens up like a book, like the one on the Galaxy Note?
Exactly. That's the one. Yeah, they managed to... I managed to kill my one-handed usability on the Galaxy S3.
Yeah, that thing, we got to talk about that thing at some point because I need to understand its utility.
There's none.
But before then, we have some more recent news, and we might as well just kick it off with this one. I need to know that I need to just say that this is the reality of the situation. A judge has actually said that the Galaxy Tab is not as cool as the iPad. This is a story from just, what is this, yesterday?
It's pretty recent, and it's from England.
And it's from England, right? And I've been I just had an opportunity to gloss over the ruling, this preliminary injunction kind of stuff. Who has the real beat on this one? Because I need to know more about this. Is it you, Tony?
I had an editorial on all the suing going on lately and whether the actual lawsuits are meant to protect or to attack, and it's generated a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
I finished law school, but I'm not specialized on intellectual property, so I'm not going to go into that much detail. But to get back to your point, I have a very interesting question that popped into my mind when I read that news post, and I can't figure out what's worst for Samsung. Getting an injunction for a tablet which is almost 1.5 years old and it's no longer selling, or to have somebody on authority, a judge, say that your product is not as cool as the Apple iPad. What's worse? Really? What's worse than that?
You've got me. I mean, this is just fascinating. Like, I'm reading the quote here. The judge explains how the Androids do not have the same understated and extreme simplicity which is possessed by the Apple design.
You know what? Please, Mr. Judge, do set out an injunction, but take back the not as cool stuff.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but this is exactly the kind of bait for fanboys and enthusiasts alike. I'm not going to, call anybody names for having an opinion about this kind of thing. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing that we do on the internet constantly, right? We have these platform fans just at each other's throats discussing the differences between their platforms and how angry they are that the other one gets more attention or the other one has, more advanced features or whatever. And now you have a judge saying it. I don't know. I just don't know what to really make of this.
I'm used to people throwing stuff at me, of course, virtually on YouTube or in the comments. So I'm going to just set it out straight. If you guys remember back in October when this whole lawsuit thing started in the US and across the world, and there was a certain situation where the judge held both the Samsung Galaxy Tab and the iPad up above her head and asked Samsung's lawyers from 10 feet away to identify their product, and Samsung lawyers were not able to tell apart the iPad from the Galaxy Tab.
Did that really happen?
Yeah, it did.
Wow, I didn't hear about that. That's amazing.
Well, maybe that's because the two tablets are that much alike, or maybe because the lawyers were not actually that much into technical stuff or design stuff. I'm not going to say my opinion on this, really. I don't want anybody to curse me.
Samsung and their marketing material for their devices is very different than Apple. Apple's all about about the emotional aspect and things working just well and elegance and such. Samsung is kind of like the anti-Apple. Like, the next big thing is already here. You don't have to wait for the Apple announcement, which is sort of what is implied. So I don't think that what the judge has said will have a negative impact on Samsung or their marketing efforts, even though this will hit every newspaper that covers business and technology. It's just kind of funny.
Right, and because it is an irresistible headline, right? Like, I mean, I love that. I love that this is the headline. Like, Galaxy Tab not as cool as iPad. I mean,
and it's coming from a judge. Come on, really?
I know. And no, you're right. I mean, people are going to be up in arms about this, and the legal ramifications of this may not be as far-reaching as it seems. I don't know. I will not. I did not finish law school, Tony, so I will not comment on it either. I keep forgetting that that's true about you.
So you don't want hate mails.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? And I that's something I want to talk about at some point in the future, in a future podcast, like how, commenters sometimes like win the day when we're having a really busy news week, and it's like, we make a point. It's like, maybe I seem to recall making the point at some point about the Lumia 900. I was like, maybe this isn't the best phone ever invented. And about 120 people were like,
how dare you?
What are you talking? Just the whole site exploded. And I was too busy to respond to all the comments. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the future. But I know you guys have had that time and time again, which is why you're being very careful in your words right now.
I don't mind saying, how I've got opinions just like everyone else. So
sure.
I don't mind speaking the truth.
It's imperative that we keep our opinions as unbiased as possible and keep saying them, because this is what sets us apart from others. I mean, I will tell you that X product is worse than Y product because I think that's the truth, because I, as a reviewer, feel that, experience that. And I think this is exactly that sets us apart from others, that we say it out loud, straight, whatever we think. And if it's hate mail material, bring it on.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Bring it on has some interesting connotations from an American perspective as a quote. But we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, it's increasingly hard to remain unbiased, I think, in this space, because I guess it's always been this way in journalism. You've got some companies that I won't mention, wooing journalists by sending them on retreats with dinners and indoor skydiving and stuff, and then they show them the product, and of course they're going to love it. I mean, geez, you took me out to dinner, you gave me a great afternoon or a great night, you're paying for my flight out here. It's just it's tough to stay biased when those things happen, but yeah, we really try.
Tough
we
to
really
stay
try.
Unbiased, yeah.
Stay unbiased, right?
Yeah, no, I agree, and yeah, I think that's a interesting line to have to walk for people in our field, especially because there are so many companies with deep pockets, but with a strong incentive to kind of sell their product hard on you.
I don't know. One quick question again for you guys: what do you think it's worse, having a product under circumstances which allow you to be biased and say your opinion, which would be favorable to the product, and probably people will buy that according to your review and maybe return it, or just say unbiasedly that it's a mediocre or a bad product? Which is worse, or which is better? I don't know.
I mean, the only choice is the second, right? Because in the first scenario, if you say this phone, has no lag, and someone buys it, and then they say, this is the laggiest phone I've ever used, what was that guy talking about? They're going to remember that, and they're not going to come back and check out your future reviews. So you gotta get it right the first time. And I think that, this is a huge tangent, I think that journalists and in this industry specifically, we help to push the industry forward. We help to nudge it by saying, Sense 4.0 is okay, but it's not that good. At the end of the day, there's a lot wrong with it still, and it needs to be better. Go back and fix it, and then we'll say it's great, and then we'll endorse it. But I think we have that role to play to help the industry get better.
I think that's exactly the core of it. I mean, it's everyone wants products to improve. Everyone wants things to get better. And this is something I run into in the other parts of my life where, I'm an actor, and you come off stage and all your friends and family are always very willing to tell you how great you were. Because, it's very polite and whatever, and that's how but you never, ever improve if people are just always telling you how wonderful you were, even if they don't believe it.
True.
And that's true in any field. It's true in any craft, in any skill set. So, yeah, I think it's really, really critical to give honest opinions for the health of the industry. So, I agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had our first tangent, gentlemen. That's very nice.
I have this strong urge to do another tangent. I need.
You need incentive or disincentive to
I need disincentive. Go to the next topic.
All right, but file that though, because we're gonna need it later.
Okay.
So let's move on here. I want to talk about Jelly Bean because I don't have it. I know that we are running it. I know, Brandon, you have an Nexus 7. You're running it on your Galaxy Nexus. I made the admission to Tony that I'm not running with a rooted Galaxy Nexus, even though I have a Galaxy Nexus, and he kind of just shook his head in shame.
You should have kept us between you and me.
You know what? Whatever. I'll take the heat from the community. It's cool. No, but I really do. I want to hear. I just read Brandon's editorial just went up about Jelly Bean using Jelly Bean 2 weeks later. I want to talk about that some. I want to hear your condensed impressions, Brandon.
Yeah, good. Well, I want to talk about it too.
Good.
So in every Android device I've ever used, with the exception of the Galaxy Nexus running Jelly Bean, there's a little hint. I've found plenty of places where the UI is laggy. That means when you press the task switcher button, it like kind of flutters open, right? That's not a good workflow. If I want to bounce between apps, I don't want to wait for a stupid Flutter to open. Not only that, going to the app tray, the notification shade, the going into settings, there's a delay, and the operating system has almost struggled to do the most basic things. And I don't care if you've got a quad-core phone or the latest Crate processor from Snapdragon or 2 gigs of RAM on the Galaxy S3. It doesn't matter. It's Android. It is the software, and I'm so thankful that Google finally realized this, and in the incremental update that is Jelly Bean, the .x update, I guess you'd say, they've really done something significant. To frame this properly, I've got my quad-core Galaxy S3 running CyanogenMod 9, and it's fast. Like, it is really fast. It's faster than the previous fastest phone I've ever used, which was the Galaxy S2 running Villain ROM, which is a great ROM.
It's an awesome ROM name too.
It is an awesome ROM name, so I've got my Galaxy S3 quad core running CyanogenMod 9 stock ice cream sandwich plus more, because it's got some speed tweaks and whatnot. And then I've got my Galaxy Nexus, which was released, in November or whatever of last year, running Jelly Bean. And I keep going back to the Galaxy Nexus running Jelly Bean, even though the screen is smaller and, you've got the on-screen buttons which take up vertical space. And even though it's got a mere dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor, which is still pretty brawny, it's a significantly better experience because it's so smooth and so quick and so responsive. I think that's the key. It's responsive, meaning when you do something, it responds. It doesn't think. It doesn't give you checkerboards. It's a revelation, and it's going to change Android.
Now, would you say it is more so buttery smooth than say iOS, than Windows Phone 7 on solid hardware? I mean,
Careful.
I'm just asking the tough questions here, Tony.
I think Windows Phone and iOS do something very interesting. I don't know the technical term for it, and there have been articles about it, how it prioritizes touch input, so it will actually, for example, stop loading a web page as you move it around, just so you get the illusion that it's very responsive. And so, and Android always lacked that. So I think what Android has done here is that it's caught up to Windows Phone and it's caught up to iOS. And it's funny, if you take an iPhone 4S and you go into the browser and you flick around a long web page like Engadget, very long, and you do the same thing on Jelly Bean, they're equally as smooth. So I'd say Jelly Bean catches up. It doesn't necessarily surpass it in terms of the fluidity of the interface.
You know what my biggest concern is regarding Android? I mean, I can agree to the fact that Jelly Bean is the fastest Android to date. I can agree that Project Butter is an excellent thing and optimization is also a good thing. But I'm afraid that whenever Jelly Bean ROMs start coming out officially, because they will come, to the HTC One X, to the Samsung Galaxy S3, to other products, that OEMs will still bundle Sense, TouchWiz, and that will probably hold Jelly Bean down. And I'm afraid that they will kill this buttery smoothness, at least in Sense, or as deep as it goes within the operating system. I mean, TouchWiz UX nature is fast, it's lightweight, but it still adds some bulk. And I'm afraid that these custom UIs will take away from the smoothness of Jelly Bean. At least that's my concern at this moment.
Do we know anything about how much Google is going to allow OEMs to change within Jelly Bean?
As much as they want, as
it's
usual.
free reign, yeah.
Down to the isn't that kind of Project Butter stuff? Isn't that like kernel layer stuff, or am I just wrong?
It's deep, and I'm thinking back to when Froyo was released, and the difference between Android 2.1 and 2.2 Froyo was the inclusion of, it's called Dalvik JIT, just in time.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what that means, but it changed the experience.
Compiler, right? It's like it compiles because Android is a compiled environment. I don't know. All I remember is the stuff from WebOS, which was not a compiled environment. It had to be interpreted on the fly, which is why it was always laggy no matter what.
Right. So it.
Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's so with this compiler, I think what that means is that it runs the apps in a different kind of environment or something. But anyway, the point is that it was faster. Then we saw all of these Froyo ROMs come out with Sense and with TouchWiz, and they were significantly faster than the 2.1 version that these devices originally shipped with because of the underpinnings 2.2. The OEMs really couldn't strip that part out. I don't think they would if they wanted to, and they could put their interface on top of it, and it remained fast. So to answer your concern, I think that Jelly Bean ROMs will still be fast, and they will still have the interplace replacements on top, but they'll still be incrementally faster.
And to touch on your question, Michael, and a little bit from your answer, Brandon, let's take the instance, the One X, for instance, with Sense 4.0. We've seen it was a huge news back in the day when people found out that HTC was tweaking the multitasking functionality on the One X, meaning that they killed background processes because they optimized the usage of the phone and the background applications and tweaked it to the HTC One X. So I'm afraid that OEMs will probably tweak some core elements of Android to deliver what they think better user experience on their phones, but on the overall general, I think they will probably kill something else. So again, let's hope I'm wrong.
So what do we do when that happens?
We flash a custom ROM.
Yeah.
We flash custom ROM, yeah, which I have the feeling that 99% of people still don't do because they're worried about voiding their warranty, they're worried about breaking their device, and they're legitimate concerns. It's still not for the faint of heart, but tools have become a lot easier to use to root your phone, to flash a custom bootloader, and what once would take an hour or two of working in a command prompt now can be done in 15 minutes as long as you know where to look.
Yeah, it is a lot easier nowadays. I mean, I'll tell you why I didn't do it on my daily driver, because I've rooted stuff. I had to root I had to install CM9 on the HP touchpad here. I think I put Android on the Veer in one video. I've done it. It's just a pain, and I understand that the average Joe's thing. It's 15 minutes if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing and you got to hunt around for the information, you don't have the XDA thread bookmarked. Then it's it can take a long time. That's a significant investment of time and effort, and I understand why it's still not taken hold in the average Joe kind of sector.
That plus the fact that most of the people don't really care about milliseconds left or milliseconds right like us geeks do. So they don't care that if I push the home button on the Galaxy S3, it goes home in 1 second. So that they look up the XDA thread which says that if you disable S-Voice, it will be instant. So maybe that's the difference between geeks and the normal user.
Which makes me feel glad that we cater predominantly to the power user, so we can talk about this stuff.
That we do, right? Yeah, and other people don't know why we're looking at their Galaxy S3, their unmodded Galaxy S3 with just disgust over the Thanksgiving dinner table.
My friend just got a beautiful blue, although it looks purple, the pebble blue Galaxy S3 on AT&T. I look at it, I flip through the screens, and I'm like, dude, you should really install Cyanogen Mod 9 on this. It's much better. And he's like, why? I just upgraded from the Captivate. And I'm like, you have no idea what you're missing. Look how slow this is. And I press a button, and he's like, wow, that was fast. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. That took 1.2 seconds. It could have taken 0.5 seconds.
God. And I mentioned this a second ago, but remember, I came from the land of WebOS, so everything is fast to me. Still.
Oh yeah,
it's a matter of perspective.
It is, but we speaking of ROMs. I mean, the Jelly Bean, the source code is out now, right? So I mean, we should be seeing Jelly Bean ROMs in short order if we haven't seen them already. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We're gonna see some. The process is complicated. Tony and I were talking about today to compile an actual ROM from source, but then you've got to get it to work on your device. You got to get Bluetooth to work, Wi-Fi, the phone, and that stuff takes a lot of skill, and that's where the development communities come into play. And then you've got the other ROM products like the Villain ROM I mentioned, Cyanogen Mod 9 or 10, I guess in this case, that will take a lot longer as they try to make something more stable, because some of these early builds that you'll probably see this week and next week will say, what's working is, the phone and Wi-Fi. What's not working is the camera, or like Bluetooth doesn't flip on.
I've seen that.
Depending on the drivers. Yeah.
Right. I've got a good friend here who was running a very early build of ICS, or I guess it was CM9's, version of ICS on his Droid Bionic. And though that's an LTE device here in the States, it was such an early build that he only had 1X, capabilities. So he's got this amazing looking skin, and it's really awesome. And then I'd try and watch him try and load a web page over, a 56K connection, and it was like, oh, this is hilarious.
Yeah, that guy's a trooper, because most people, I think most people would say, this isn't even worth it if my Bluetooth or my, 3G doesn't work. But that's commendable.
He's a real like top of the line Android geek. I want to get him on the show sometime.
That'll be great. Another thing I should mention, I'm such a huge proponent of rooting your phone and doing all that good stuff to it. The beauty of the process is that once you do it the first time, once you root your phone, install a custom bootloader, installing a third-party ROM becomes as easy as like changing your underwear. Literally, you load the ROM.
Excellent analogy. Okay.
You load the ROM onto your phone. You could do it through the Clockwork mod, or what's it called? The ROM Manager. You could do it through ROM Manager, and then it reboots your phone into recovery, and it does it for you. And literally in seconds, you can have a different ROM on your phone. And then you can back up individual ROMs. I mean, this is probably not new to many people listening, but so let's say you got CyanogenMod 9 on your phone. You've got all of your files set up, all of your settings, and then you see that MIUI, whatever it's called, has been ported to your phone, and you want to try it out. You want to see what the buzz is about. So you back up your entire CM9 ROM, you try this MIUI thing, and if it doesn't work out, you can go back to the exact same copy with all your settings, all your files, running CM9. So there's a lot of beauty into the process once you invest the time in the beginning.
Yeah,
once you start doing that, you become addicted.
Yes, It is an addiction.
Yes.
Don't do drugs.
I completely agree with it. I want to talk more about that, but we do need to move on because we are already running over time, and I love that because I love talking. But
I hope people love listening to us.
I think they will. Well, we need more of your dulcet tones, Tony. I love your accent. We were talking about this off the air. I cannot get enough of Tony can just read me a phone book. It doesn't matter.
What, you want me to talk to you with my Russian accent?
I would like to have seen Montana.
Is this what you guys do when I'm not?
Yeah, this is a typical work day.
Stuff, yeah.
That's great. Glad I only see it, on podcasts.
Yeah, just once a week, right? Yeah. No, but we still want to talk about Jelly Bean because we have Nexus 7s coming to us, like a lot of people in the world, and I need to know what you guys are excited about. I want to hear. I know Brandon, you already have one. Tony, yours is you have one coming to you, right?
No, and
you don't.
I will. No, I don't.
Tell me why.
I'll tell you why. While I answer the question why I'm excited about the Nexus 7, because I am excited, but I'm not excited about the tablet itself. This might sound complicated. Let me uncomplicate things. I am not excited about the Nexus 7 itself. I am not excited about Jelly Bean. I am not excited about ASUS doing hardware. What I am finally excited about is that Google finally decided to go with Nexus tablets, to have their own tablets for the developer community, for the power users, to have a standard hardware to which OEMs can catch up. This is, I think, what's most important about the Nexus 7. Not the hardware, not the price point, not the OS, the fact that it's a pure Android tablet and it's a benchmark. It's a target for OEMs and other tablet makers to go beyond.
Yeah, from an industry perspective, it's very, very significant. Yes.
It's very significant, and it's very, very quiet in the Android tablet world right now. And I know IFA is coming up next month, and you guys are going to be there, and you're going to see the stuff. But it's been a weird year. There's been the Galaxy Tab 2, which is horrible. It's a minor iteration over the Galaxy Tab, and then HTC has done absolutely nothing. Motorola had some follow-ups to the Zoom, which were pretty terrible. Again, incremental small updates that really didn't bring anything amazing to the table. My hope and my wish is that next month, or as we get into the holiday season, we're going to see like high-res 7-inch tablets with quad-core processors, great battery life, and finally some movement in the tablet world. And yeah, as you guys implied, this Nexus 7 is big because it's going to drive prices down as much as the OEMs are going to hate it. But what that's going to do is more people will have Android tablets. Developers are going to take notice. Finally, this problem of very few Android tablet apps is going to be fixed, and we're all going to live happily ever after with like 10 tablets in every room.
In every household. I've got
The
my
more
fingers
the merrier.
crossed for that reality, because I wrote a piece recently about how it is possible to make beautiful Android tablet apps. And I mean, digging for those, finding beautiful Android tablet apps was so incredibly difficult. I mean, there are aggregators out there specifically to find, Android apps that are optimized for tablet, and even those aggregators are flooded with bad search results where blown up phone apps, and it's such an incredible problem, and it's amazing that it's a problem that's gone on for so long.
And yeah, you're right. It's hard to find the apps. And what's really interesting is when you're on the iPad and you search for like Twitter, you get two search results, one with iPad apps, one with iPhone apps. Right. And when you search a Google tablet, you don't get that, but it's kind of by design, because I think the idea is that the app will live in either a tablet or a phone environment if coded that way. And 99% of them are not coded that way.
Right. Yeah, and I like their philosophy behind that. I think it's something wonderful to aspire to. Or I forgot whether it was Larry Page or Sergey Brin who was like, a developer should never have to build an app more than once.
Yeah.
And I get that, and that's one way to be friendly to developers. But it's resulted in this world where I have an Android tablet. It's the touchpad. It's nothing amazing, but I also have an iPad here, and I don't need to tell you which one I use more often, because it's much more pleasurable to use an iPad.
Yep. There is a section in the in Google Play, if you're using a tablet, that says tablet staff picks. Have you ever seen that, Michael?
Oh yeah, once or twice.
And that's where I sort of go sometimes, and I'm like, oh well, what cool. And it's just
it's like barren.
It's barren, and there's nothing like innovative in there, and it's a sad story. So to circle back to the Nexus 7, this could very well be the catalyst that changes that.
And I hope it is. And if it's not, if for some reason the Nexus 7 is not the the fire under the butts of Google and their developer efforts, then maybe another app store is. Maybe it's going to be the new Kindle Fire, which we have seen renders for recently. I find it very difficult to get excited about Kindles. I'm excited about them from an industry perspective, but not personally. The Kindle Fire was not an interesting device to me personally. So what do the renders that we reported on indicate here?
Well, let me start by first, because it's going to be a short intervention. I haven't used Kindles never, because I'm in Romania and I can't get those here. But I know, because I write about them, I read about them, so I know what they're all about. Now, about the new Kindle Fire, let's talk about the 7, because there are two rumored, the 7-inch and the 10-inch. Okay. And both of them are placed specifically in a certain region of the market. The 7-inch Kindle Fire is, of course, going to compete with the Nexus 7 and the Galaxy Tab 7.7, so it's going to aim towards those who want a tablet which is smaller than the iPad, it's larger than the Galaxy Note, which is a phablet, and something like that.
And the Note tablet, don't forget.
Yeah,
right.
Which isn't available, again, in Romania. And we have the 10-inch Kindle Fire, which is rumored, which will specifically target the iPad. Now, I'm not exactly sure whether they will manage to do that or not, but to circle back to your question about the renders, these renders were based off of rumors, of what we've heard from several sources like VG Times, like BGR, what people, quoting anonymous sources close to the matter, say. I think that, as usual with leaks, it's twofold. Either they're spot on, or they're completely different from what the real deal would be. Would I buy a tablet, a Kindle, if it was available in Romania and it would look like the one in the renders? Probably not, because my tablet usage requires me more power user access. I don't need the new fancy UI because I don't use a tablet for consuming content. But of course, a region of the market, which is their target, uses that. So
Sure.
tough to say.
Wait, you don't use a tablet for consuming content, did you say?
No, I'm using a tablet more as a mobile office. I'm using a smartphone for consuming content, for pictures, for music, for Facebook, social networking. I'm using my tablet when I am out. I don't want to take my laptop with me, and I'm writing either news or managing stuff. I've been using Android tablets for that because it allows access to upload from the file system, but iOS 6 will bring that, and then probably I will switch back to the iPad when working.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating because we always think of tablets as exclusively almost content consumption devices because that's how they're constantly positioned, and hearing that somebody is able to be productive on one on a regular basis is always kind of encouraging because we're constantly told that we're entering this post PC era. Where tablets are going to kind of really usurp the role of notebooks. And I tend to believe that's true. It's just really, really slow from a productivity standpoint.
Well, let me give you my personal example. You will never see me take pictures with my tablet. You will never see me kicking it to Bon Jovi from my tablet. And you will most probably not see me watching a movie from my tablet because I have my laptop for that. So what remains is that I have a small device, which is comparable in size with my 11-inch notebook, which I can take wherever I want, offers me 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours of battery life, and allows me to work easily from everywhere. So that's my usage of a tablet.
Nice. What about you, Brandon?
It's interesting because I don't know if we were going to talk about the Surface, but I'm going to talk about the Surface.
Now we're going to talk about the Surface.
I kind of use a tablet for all of the above, and I'm a big tablet guy. In fact, on my Twitter bio says I'm a tablet lover, so it must be true. I think I love my wife more, but the tablet would come in a close second.
It's on the internet. It must be true.
Yeah, that's right. I use a tablet to consume web pages, newspapers, books. I've yet to find a tablet good enough to be an awesome book reader. I mean, the Nexus 7 comes close, but even that, the screen isn't amazing. I can still see pixels. I hate seeing pixels.
Yeah, you do.
And it's a little too thick and cumbersome. I mean, it's getting there. So I haven't found the ultimate reading tablet, except I guess if you want to consider the Kindle with an e-ink display. I think that's my book reading device of choice. But there are a lot of times where I'm using, say, an iPad, which is still my favorite tablet, the new iPad. And I think to myself, geez, I can't do X right now. And X could be, I can't use Adobe Photoshop and edit this image the way I want with a mouse and keyboard. Or I can't type an extremely long email and feel confident editing it by tapping on the screen and seeing that little magnification come up. I can't, and I'm running out of things because as time goes on, there's fewer and fewer things. I can't use my my FTP client, which stores certain file locations just the way I want.
You cannot upload a picture to a post.
Right, unless you're running iOS 6.
Yeah, exactly. I can't even upload a picture, which is ridiculous. And then I start thinking this Microsoft Surface thing can have some pretty big advantages, especially with that cool cover that doubles as like a trackpad and and the keyboard. If this only applies to the Pro version, and the Pro version is going to be like 13 millimeters thick, and the screen res isn't that high, blah, blah, blah. I could complain all day about it. But it gets closer to that reality of here's a device, I can use it for everything, literally. So I'm kind of curious to see. Hopefully they're not too expensive. The Surface Pro, to fill in those times when I need to use Photoshop or I need to use my FTP client or whatever.
I think based on the fact that they did not announce prices at that event, and based on what they've done before, Microsoft, I hesitate to say that I tend to think your hopes will be dashed. I think those are going to be really expensive tablets. I'm not basing that on anything. I don't know. I mean, do you guys? What do you think about that? We weren't going to talk about the Surface today, but I'm curious now because
here's
Surface
a prediction.
RT is what has to compete with the iPad. But what about the other one? Go ahead, Tony.
Here's a prediction from me. The cheaper versions will be around the same price tag as Android tablets, and the Pro versions will be in the same price tag as the iPad.
Whoa.
No way.
That is bold, man.
That's not the Pro version is going to be as much as an Ultrabook. It's going to be $1,000.
Then nobody's going to buy that. I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to buy a MacBook Air.
I think both of those things are true. I think that pricing is what's going to happen, and I think nobody's going to buy the Pro versions.
Wait a sec. Microsoft is going to use their massive amounts of cash to convince you that you really need to get a Surface and you need to spend,
unless Microsoft puts some money in my pockets, which
Right.
I don't have to spend that much on its Surface, then there's no issue, really. Yeah. So price is very important.
But then again, you guys all have, you've got your MacBook Airs, you've got a tablet. Well, the people that are going to buy the Surface Pro are going to be people who are like, geez, I need a laptop, and I want it to be thin. I want it to have great battery life. Kind of cool if it would have a touch screen, so it would have that like iPad-like thing. Oh, wait, there's this thing. It's called the Surface Pro. It's around the same price as the Samsung Series 9, but it seems to have more utility. I'm going to buy it. It's kind of that scenario where people will buy it.
I see that conversation happening, in a similar way at first, where it's like, oh, man, yeah, I'd like to have, I need a laptop, I need something to be portable, and it's like, oh, man, it'd be nice if it had a touchscreen, because we had that, like, iPad-like thing. Oh, wow, that Surface thing is, like, whatever, it's like $800. Hey, why don't I just get an iPad?
Yeah.
That's like...
You know what's possible? It's possible that the Pro version will be more targeted towards, as HP said, towards the business consumer, towards corporations, towards IT departments, towards businessmen who are on the go. Yeah. And probably the RT version will be the go-to Microsoft tablet.
That could well be. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. Well, since we're already talking about Windows Phone stuff, and since I really, or excuse me, not Windows Phone stuff, we were talking about Windows stuff, but I want to ask about what you guys think is next for the Lumia thing. We've been kind of quiet on the Nokia front. We had like 2 weeks there where I guess it was really hip for analysts to speculate about the future of Nokia. And the lack of a future in Nokia. Like there was a lot of FUD flying around. And the pink Nokia Lumia is about to come out. And because that's news, there has to be another Lumia coming up on the horizon. And Richard Karras, he's the developer relations guy, right, for Nokia?
Yep.
Yeah, he said so, that there's a Lumia on the horizon with PureView technology, which we kind of all have anticipated is coming. How long do you guys think we have to wait for the next Lumia phone? Because I want it.
Yeah.
I had to talk myself out of buying a Lumia 900 the other day. I mean, of course, I've carried it before. I've used review units, whatever. But I want a Lumia phone now.
So the only reason.
Go ahead.
But the only reason I'm not using a Lumia 900, Michael, is because in episode, I think it was 1 of After the Buzz, you said it gave you a blister, and I don't want blisters on my
It gave me a blister right in the middle of my palm, and I was ostracized from my social circles. So I will not forgive it.
I believe, and this is going to piss a lot of people off, but this is still what I believe, that Microsoft somehow shot themselves in the leg with Windows Phone 8. I mean, after the announcement of Windows Phone 8 and the fact that it's coming somewhere in Q3, Q4, regardless, can you find any reasons to convince me to buy a Windows Phone now, knowing that there will be no upgrade except for, of course, Windows Phone 7.8, which is not the real deal?
I think people. Okay. If I were on a contract and I just bought a Lumia 900 and I learned that I would only get Windows Phone 7.8, I would be upset. But thinking more broadly, I think people should stop complaining about it, because the best parts of Windows Phone 8, most notably the improved start screen, is coming to the legacy devices are the vast majority of them, and I think that's what people should look at.
I agree. I wrote a piece on this, and I was so elated to be able to kind of like dive into this and look at what the differences are. And so much of this is just a messaging problem on Microsoft's end. Like, yes, we have an application framework change, and that is a big deal. But Microsoft is not going to leave those people behind. They're not going to just like leave the Windows Phone 7 people out in the wind because they can't afford to, because they're so few of them that they can't afford to let them go. So you know, and you can't. So much of Windows Phone 8, you know, is hardware improvements, which are sorely needed, of course. But you can't. What are they going to do? You can't put a higher resolution screen in an OTA download.
I know,
you know?
right?
You can't put a better camera in a software update. You know?
Or can
Michael,
you?
Well, you sort of can.
Michael, if you remember, Microsoft has pushed the reset button with Windows Phone 7 back in the day, and what happened to Windows Mobile 6.5? It got completely slate. Nobody offered support. They killed it.
Right.
And now Microsoft is pushing the reset button again for Windows Phone 8. Again, a huge difference, as it was from 6.5 to 7 is going to be a huge difference from 7, 7.5 to 8. What do you think will happen to 7, 7.5 devices? When will Microsoft stop supporting them?
I think, are they going to be pushed to legacy status? Yes, absolutely. I think Microsoft's going to do a much better job supporting them, because I think they were bullish with Windows Phone 7. I think they were coming to the market and they said, look, we got this new awesome Metro UI. You know, we've got, it's an entirely new product that is so much better than Windows Phone, and people are going to flock to it. And then for various reasons that didn't happen. People kind of like saw Windows Phone launch and then kind of shrugged and kept buying, you know, iPhones and Android phones. But like, I think Microsoft is more cautious now, and I think they better realize it at the very least, that these people who are currently on the WP7 platform are all they have, and if they annoy them, then they better really impress a lot of people with Windows Phone 8, because they're just gonna.
I think, exactly. I think they are targeting people who might be willing to convert from other platforms directly to Windows Phone 8 than they are targeting current Windows Phone users. I don't know. I have this feeling.
That's an interesting. I mean, I think you might be right. I think if they do that at the cost of, you know, ignoring the Windows Phone 7 users, I think that.
Which is how much? It is 5, 6, 7% of the market.
Yeah, what is the figure on that? Do we know?
It's sub 2 digits.
Yeah, it's still under 10%. I remember that. I couldn't get a reliable figure on it the last time I wrote a Windows Phone article, so yeah.
So I hope people don't get us wrong. We are not haters. We're not saying this because we have something. We love Windows Phone. We love all platforms, and we have the utmost respect for what Microsoft tried to do. But I think that Microsoft is like, I've read a great quote, and I'm sorry I cannot quote exactly, and I cannot say who said it, but they said Microsoft is like a huge bulky train which starts moving very slowly, but once they start moving, they just go on and on.
Yeah. I mean, it takes any company that huge to get the momentum up or to stop, you know, bad momentum. And it was interesting to watch Nokia try and kind of overcome that. And we'll speculate more about Nokia in a future episode, because I do want to spend a good amount of time talking about them.
But we didn't answer the question. When will we see PureView on Windows phones? My prediction is Windows Phone 8 is the moment for PureView to come to Windows Phone.
So you don't think until the winter time?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, isn't Windows Phone 8 shipping on devices in the holiday time?
Yeah. It should.
So I guess that's what you meant by wintertime. I think we're going to see, and get ready to, hopefully you won't poop yourself. I think we're going to see a Lumia 900-like device called the 1001 or whatever. It's going to have a 720p Super AMOLED display. It's going to have dual-core CPU. It's going to have a PureView camera running Windows Phone 8. It's going to be slightly thicker for that camera.
It's going to have to be, right?
1 gig of RAM.
1 gig of RAM, and everyone's going to freak out over it because it's going to be an awesome device. And
Plus micro SD card support.
Micro SD support. I think it's going to be a platform switcher for some.
You know, I think you're probably right, and I think that it's going to have to be, because I think Nokia is once again in a position where they have to save their butts. They're not on a burning platform again, but they're on a sinking platform. Not the Windows Phone platform, but, you know, they're one of their own making.
Yeah.
Well, that would be nice. If that happens, Brandon, I will hold you to that. I will run out and purchase one. I'm
Yeah,
saying
me
it
too.
right now. I'm saying it on the air. Yes, I will buy one for myself. And very briefly, in that same vein, we got a report recently that Lumia 900 customers, the people who did go out and buy Lumia 900s, are very satisfied. With 96% of owners extremely satisfied or somewhat satisfied with their Lumia 900. These are people surveyed between April 27 and May 18 by Nielsen. It's almost 1,000 Nokia Lumia owners, 810 owners surveyed. That's impressive.
Which is just normal, Michael, because if you look at Nokia's track record, not only with the Windows Phone or Symbian, even from the good old dinosaur days with the Nokia 1000, 1100, and the good old dumb phones, Nokia had excellent build quality, excellent call quality, excellent battery life. So they made phones for life. I even have a friend who has a phone which is like 15 years old. It's a dumb phone, and it's still working.
Yeah.
So it's nothing strange for me. Nokia phones are extremely well built, and that survey just speaks for that.
I agree, and I miss a lot about the Lumia 900, and a lot of that came from Nokia. But it's significant now because we're not talking about a Nokia Symbian phone that only a few people bought. The Lumia 900 enjoyed a really big push here in the States, and I think a lot of people bought it. They won't release accurate numbers, but we're talking in the millions, right? Possibly.
Man, I don't know about that.
You don't think they broke 1 million?
Million's a lot of phones. I mean,
I think with the AT&T push that they enjoyed, I don't know. I mean,
if you guys remember the numbers, the quarterly numbers Nokia released at the beginning of this year, they said that from the moment they released the first Lumia phones, which was last year, summer in October, they broke around 1 million. That was in one quarter. And there was no Lumia 900 back then.
And that's worldwide sale, that's global?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting. I mean, if the numbers are good enough, they will release them at some point. So I guess we either have to wait to hear or not to hear, and if we don't hear, then we're going to be talking about Nokia in any case when they, go up for auction or whatever. So I really hope that doesn't happen. I think they're one of the only companies doing interesting stuff on the industrial design, or at least that was the case like 5 or 6 months ago, before HTC decided to wake back up and etc.
if Nokia goes to the auction block, you guys wanna bid for it? Nokia.
I'm in.
First order of business is to get the Lumia 900 to run Jelly Bean, and then we're off to the races.
Oh, that would make my heart hurt. It'd be like putting Android on a Palm Pre.
Okay, quick question. Yes or no? Michael, Brandon, do you think Nokia should have went Android?
Brandon, you go first.
No.
No, you won't go first, or no, they shouldn't have gone Android?
I'll go first. No, they shouldn't have gone Android because it's too competitive, and I feel like the CEO explaining this, but Nokia could differentiate with much better hardware.
Yes, but they would have sold millions by now, zillions.
They would have. I think I kind of wish they had done a two-pronged strategy, but then they wouldn't have gotten the love from Microsoft and the exclusivity and all this. So they had to. They're between a rock and a hard place, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from a business perspective, I think the argument could be made either way. From a strictly personal perspective, no, I will always favor the underdog. I always like it when two underdogs get together to try and push something, to try and kind of pull each other out of the mud. I watched it fail with Sprint and Palm in their kind of death embrace, and that sucked. And so I still want to see this happen. I think, and I'm not the only one. Like I'm obsessive and a nerd for WebOS, yes, but like a lot of us, this is what happened before I wrote for Pocketnow, before all this stuff. Like a lot of us hanging out over at Pre-Central or wherever, WebOS died, and then we were like, well, we're all jumping ship to a platform that's going to be supported. Where are we all going? 4 out of 5 people, seriously, Windows Phone. Because there's something in the DNA of fanboys of our particular stripe, I guess, that really likes the underdog platform. So no, seeing Nokia embrace Windows Phone was a great thing, and I still love it, and I still want to see that success story kind of bloom, and I really hope it happens. Do. Yeah. So, anyway, we're coming up on an hour, gents, so we got to kind of wrap this up real quick, and we've talked a little bit about Android Windows Phone. I want to sort of wrap this up on on an iPad mini rumor, which I'm getting tired of. Do we like the idea of a 7-inch iPad? Can I just put that out there? Do we care? Tony, how do you feel about a 7-inch iPad? You have an iPad. Tell me how you feel about it.
It's a tough question. It's not that do users need a 7-inch iPad, or does Apple need a 7-inch iPad? I think users would need a 7-inch iPad, but Apple does not. Apple always went for the high quality, premium products. And of course, there was Steve Jobs and his legacy of never going below 9.7 inches. Would I buy a 7-inch iPad? Absolutely. Do I need a 7-inch iPad? No.
Okay. Succinctly put. What about you, Brandon?
I'll also be succinct. The new iPad is far too heavy, and it is far too bulky and far too thick to be comfortably held for a long period of time. And
Agreed.
that's a big shame, because the best content viewing experience on a tablet is on the iPad. I can view the Wall Street Journal in this beautiful digital atmosphere, but it's tiresome to hold. They need something lighter and smaller, something that you could take into bed and not feel like you've brought, your laptop into bed with you, which is kind of a weird notion. Anyway.
No, agreed. And more, maybe even more importantly, on the train, which is where I find myself a whole lot of the time. And one-handed use with an iPad the size of the new iPad,
not possible.
It's very cumbersome. It's not enjoyable. The 7-inch form factor, there are arguments to be made either way. I would find use for one very easily, which sort of catapults into the final 2 minutes of the podcast, in theory, which it will not be. But I have this idea, and it's for this editorial, which I am scheduled to write at some point tonight. So maybe it'll be live by the time this podcast goes up. I was going to bed the other night. Interesting, you mentioned bed and tablets, Brandon. I was going to bed the other night, and normally I do have my iPad in bed, and I watch Netflix or whatever. I read email because I work from bed, which is stupid. But the iPad has been annoying me because I'm running iOS 6 beta, and I had a problem. And blah, blah, blah. So I was like, whatever, I've got the Galaxy S3 here. And it struck me that I was really enjoying using the Galaxy S3 for all the things I would be using the iPad for. And I was like, this thing it's got a 4.8-inch screen. It's nowhere near the size of the tablet, but it's much less cumbersome. I can still see it fine because it's a huge screen. So our big phones like the Galaxy S3 and our phablets like the Galaxy Note, are they a threat to tablets long term as they get more popular? What do you think? 2 minutes. Brandon, why don't you go first?
2 minutes each, or in total?
2 minutes each. I'll be generous because we are all friends here.
Okay, who starts?
Brandon starts.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. Are phablets a threat to tablets? Yes, they are. Because if I am someone who can handle a device like the Galaxy Note, which I'm not, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'd rather have one device and enjoy the Galaxy Note does provide like a mini tablet-like experience. It's a bigger screen. You can comfortably view Netflix on it, comfortably view the newspaper in some cases. The problem, of course, with the Note is that when you download apps from Google Play, it reverts to the phone UI. And what if you want the tablet UI? You might struggle to see the screen because things will be so small. But for me, I can't handle a Note because it's too big. It's too big in the pocket. I can't fit my hands around it. My hands aren't that small, but I can't type with it accurately. So I need a phone that has a reasonably sized screen, and then I need a tablet that is a larger canvas to view. I don't mind having two things, and I have to have two things because I can't use a phablet on a regular basis. I like them; they're fun, but I can't personally use them.
Okay, so you'll sacrifice that for day-to-day usability. Understood.
Right.
Tony?
Short version, no, they are not a threat. Long version, I had a discussion with Brandon and some other colleagues back in the day, and we tried to define that very thin line between the phone and the tablet. And I think we need to define what a so-called phablet is. I think a phablet is a device which has a screen size between the smallest tablet and the largest phone. But when the phablet, the Galaxy Note came out last year at IFA, all the smartphones had 4.3 inches in diagonal, and there were 7.7 inches tablets. Now tablets become smaller and smaller. We have 7-inch tablets now, and we have 4.8-inch screens. So I think at one point these two will mold together, and the perception, the concept of a phablet will disappear. But I think that they are addressing two separate segments of the market. Somebody who wants to have a decent-sized phone, and somebody who has to have a decently or fairly large or fairly small tablet. You will never see somebody with both a smartphone and a tablet carrying them at the same time. That person will have the need for a phablet. So no, I think phablets are not a threat to tablets. I'm not sure if I made sense. Did that translate correctly in English?
It did. I wonder if I wonder though, is that true? Do you never see people with carrying both a smartphone and a tablet?
That's not true.
Well, maybe in the US, but here in Europe, I have never seen somebody who had both an Android device or an Android tablet, iOS device, iOS tablet, because they both do the same thing.
Which is why maybe the pad phone will do better over there than it will over here.
Probably.
Maybe. We don't know. We have our fingers crossed. We'll talk about that maybe more on the next episode. Thank you. You guys are good at being succinct. I couldn't be under 2 minutes. I'm glad I'm the question poser and not the answerer. I just talk and talk and talk. This has been great. That actually brings us to the end of the hour of episode 1 of Pocketnow Weekly. I'm really, really glad we got to the end here without running into any major problems, knock on wood. Guys, we're going to be back every week doing this from here on, as we discussed at the beginning of the show. We've got some schedule things to work out. We're gonna work out distribution. We're gonna get this stuff to you as quickly as possible. But once we have all that nailed down, we'll let you know when you can expect this on a weekly basis. We do have an email address set up. We want you to email us at podcast@pocketnow.com. If you have questions that you want us to answer on the air, we're willing to build in a section there if you have specific questions for us. If they're interesting and applicable to more than just yourself, or if you have topic suggestions or anything you want to throw our way. Once again, podcast@pocketnow.com. You can follow us on Twitter at PocketNowTweets, which is spelled just like it sounds. And gentlemen, why don't you tell everyone where they can reach you?
Well, my phone number is on
Twitter, on the Twitter sphere, if you will. If you think that is something you want to share, if you don't want people bothering you on Twitter, then they'll just look at my tweets where I retweet you very frequently.
No, I'd love for people to follow me on Twitter. And I'll try to follow you back if possible, or if you give me a good reason, I guess.
Possible, yeah.
if you promise to send me candy in the mail, I'm just Brandon Miniman on Twitter, first name last name together, and let's make it easy.
Great.
Yeah, for me it's a bit difficult. I'm gonna spell it out. I'm ANTONDNAGY on Twitter, but if you go to pocketnow.com, scroll down to the page, you see the picture, my mugshot. You click on that and you have all the information you need.
And you can find my Twitter address and my Pocketnow email address at the same spot on the author page. But you can follow me at Captain2Phones. That's Captain, the number 2 phones. I do love talking to people on Twitter, and I try and respond as often as I can to at replies that are not offensive. And or mostly not offensive. And I will look forward to speaking with all of you there, and we'll look forward to getting your emails at podcast@pocketnow.com. Stay tuned for the next weekly installment next week. And gentlemen, thank you very much for being on the show today. This was great.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. And everyone, have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week.
Thanks for listening.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.